Hey, everybody, how's it going tonight? Appreciate you guys stopping by tonight for our Tuesday night cryptid discussion. I hope you guys have had a good day. If you guys can see me okay, hear me okay, throw me a 7x7 there in the chat, and I will say hello to everybody. Let's see. We got Fleet M. Good to see you. Nice to have you with us. My brother AJ. Dinner's done and waiting on the evening's entertainment. Do I need my blankie for this one? You might, AJ. Might need your blankie. This one's a little on the creepy side. Rubberneck, good to see you. Rubberneck says this sounds like an interesting one. Yeah, interesting. Let's see. We got Nate. Nate says I'll have to watch this as a repeat at the same time. All right. Thanks for stopping by. TJ Squatchy, I was hoping you'll be here. Appreciate you stopping by. Always good to see you. We got Crazy Irish. How's it going tonight? Always good to see you, Crazy. Let's see, we got Shift Kicker. How's it going? Good to see you. Chris, good to see you. Always good to see you. ER, how's it going tonight? What's going on in here? Talking about some creepy cryptids. Cashew, how's it going? Glad you could be here. There's Miss Lake Fairy. Says, good evening, friends and family. I hope everyone is comfy and safe at home. That's right. Let's see. We got Watt Life. Good to see you. Is that a Georgia Bulldog I see? Nice to have you here, Watt Life. Okay, we got some 7x7s. Life with Bobby. Good to see you. Bluegrass Sweetheart. Hi, do. Good to see you. Did he say 2x2? You know I do 7x7. TJ Squatchy says, if Norm is here, hello. Norm, if you're watching, welcome. Lisa Anderson, good to see you. Celestial Preps, hello, everyone. I'm under the covers. I'm waiting to see Susie D pop in here. Oh, there she is. Watt Life says, hello, normies. Norm's fan club chiming in. Susie D, I'm glad you could be here. Red Scout, how's it going? Good evening. Karen Burnfin, hello, good to see you. Let's see. Finding Kino, always good to see you. Let's see. Hey, there's my brother, Gary Lynch. Not literally my brother, but he's my Gary. Well, at one point, he lived really close to where I used to live. So we were practically neighbors. So, Gary, it's good to see you here. Been a while. All right, yeah, so tonight we're talking about something that got a little bit more creepy than maybe I had anticipated. I got something funny I got to tell you here in a minute. Let's see, what did Susie D say there? Bigfoot, the pic of empty-eyed kids is creepy, going to hide. Yeah, it's a bit creepy. You know what? When I used to do a lot of the cryptid shows, I got many requests to talk about the black-eyed children, and quite honestly, there was a couple things there. I didn't really know enough about it to know that there was much of a story or much history there, so I never really entertained it. And the other half of that is it just seems really creepy. I'm not going to lie. The black-eyed kids, the black-eyed children, even you see the thumbnail picture. It makes me harken back to you guys remember way back, I think it was in the 50s, that the movie The Village of the Damned came out, where you had all those creepy kids. There's something about innocent kids being so terrifying. It's just something about it. They're just creepy. Even, you think of Children of the Corn, you think of a lot of those movies, those kids, it just makes it, there's just an extra creepiness to that. It just there's something about it. Shadow Files, good to see you. Let's see. Celestial Prep's creepy movie. Yes, indeed. Like Ferry just said, it twists everything you think about kids being innocent and sweet. Just something about it. And Life with Bobby is offering some very important advice right here. Whatever they say, whatever they try to trick you with, don't let them in. Don't open the door. Okay? That's the fact. I can give you any advice when it comes to the black-eyed children. Don't let them in. Don't let them in. Suburban Hillbilly, good to see you. Hey, there's my brother, William H. How's it going tonight, brother? Good to see you. Ruben D, good to see you. Let's see. Oh, we're on with the Jeff Bear burns again. Maybe Jeff Bear saw the original release of that movie. No comment. ER, there we go. Village of the Damned, 1960. Yes. And yep, absolutely, Bluegrass. Rebuke them in Jesus' name. I guess that would be my first line of defense if I ever saw a black-eyed children. Do not let them in your home, car, or yard. William H., I can't stay, but wanted to drop by and show my sword. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that. Susie, I see people's souls through their eyes. Black-eyed kids, I can't let them in. Good call. Good call. Let's see. We got a few more pop in here. We got TH2. Good to see you, brother. Lewis. How's it going tonight, Lewis? Always good to see you. Tamara, good to see you. Hey, there is Mr. Chuck C. Occam's Razor. How's it going tonight, Chuck? Always good to see you. Let's see, Life with Bobby. I've seen stories about the black-eyed children. Bad things can happen with them. Yeah. I've got a pretty interesting collection of stories that I wanted to kind of discuss tonight and look into a bit. They range from all different sorts of experiences, and we're going to take a look at quite a few of them. Actually, they're short stories, and they just bounce from one to the other, and hopefully that's okay with you guys. Gets, like I said, the black-eyed children. A little bit of the history, if you don't know anything at all about the black-eyed children. The black-eyed children, sometimes they're called the black-eyed kids. They're said to resemble like a sort of ghostly child, and usually they're described as being in their early teens or even younger than that. Not many are described older than being of teenager age. The characteristic that stands out the most, obviously, is they have these unnatural, pure black eyes. They have no iris, and there's no white of their eyes, completely black. Many of their people who report seeing them regard them as being sinister, sometimes terrifying, and at times even report them as being dangerous. But no one is sure what they are. We're going to get into some of the possibilities tonight. Now, in most of the black-eyed children's stories and legends, the children can be found around highways, streets, residential homes, and they tend to stalk passerbys or residents of that property, and with the ultimate goal of causing psychological harm. Seems to be their main objective. On the streets and when they're near the streets and highways, the black-eyed children, they've been reported to appear as lost children or even hitchhikers. And when someone stops, out of concern for them, they basically become aggressive towards them. There's a lot of different theories as far as the origins of these black-eyed children. Some say that possibility that they're ghosts. Others claim, which when you look and look at the pictures and see the black eyes, I can't not look at that and not think of something that's demonic. Some people think of almost vampiric, like a vampire, because it's the same objective that a vampire has. They need you to let them in. That's the question you hear a lot in these stories. Let us in. And some people think they're just practitioners of dark magic. Some UFO researchers describe them as human/alien hybrids, and many others believe they're just kids playing just a cruel prank on people, perhaps with contacts or what have you in their eyes to black them out. A lot of people regard them as nothing more than myths that have grown kind of exponentially grown. The stories have grown due to the internet. You have all the forums and you have YouTube to get these stories out there. But of all the various studies that have been conducted into the backstories and the history of the black-eyed children sightings, it's still currently unknown when exactly the first sighting was reported. And as deep as I looked, even to find where the legend originated, a lot of times with the cryptids, you can trace it back to either like Native American or something. There's just something in history that you can trace these origins back to. But when it comes to the black-eyed children, I really couldn't find that smoking gun, that link to take it back. And trust me, I dug, and my wife dug for the history on this too. So we're going to go back to as far as I could find, and that's where we're going to kind of pick up. Chris says, "Why am I thinking back to Damien? That movie scared me back in the day." Yeah, right. AJ, yep, The Omen. Kind of in that way, right? That's dark, sinister, and that's what a lot of these stories and a lot of these legends, they're dark, and I have to say that's one of the creepiest things I've actually put time into research and try to learn more about. So yeah, tonight we're going to take a look at one of the most creepy cryptids that I have ever taken the time to research and try to find more about. It's just creepy on another level, just creepy. So tonight we take a look at the legend of the black-eyed kids, and I hope you guys enjoy this intro that my awesome wife, Lake Fairy, created. So here's a little intro created by my wife for the black-eyed kids.
Run away. Please stay with me. If you don't come play with me, I will kill you. La 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 la.
So yeah, I blame my wife for that. She there's actually a pretty funny story to to that intro. So she knew we were going to be making this doing this stream tonight. So she's been working on this intro since yesterday. And so I have to get up, early in the morning for work. And she's laying there, working away at this intro. And she searches for sound effects to kind of put it all together. And yeah, Susie D, exactly. The knocking on my door. Yes, okay, we're going with that. So I'm laying there almost asleep. Aleutian Prepper says she saw the last bit of it. I'll play it again here in a second. So I'm laying there just about ready to fall asleep, and she's going through sound effects, and she doesn't turn her phone down accidentally, and I put that in quotes, and I hear this, and I'm like up. I'm like, what is going on? And it's just her working on this stream. So yeah, not only did the research into the black-eyed kids give me stress and give me anxiety, it literally caused me to have a waking nightmare, waking up. Yeah, and then she woke me up and explained what was going on. But yeah, I just did all this research on the black-eyed kids. I hear knocking at my door at like 1 a.m. Yeah, just a little bit creeped out by that. So yeah, for you guys who just came in, Aleutian Prepper, I'll play that again. It's short, so I'll play that again. I think she did a great job with this.
Run away. Please stay. Stay with me. If you don't come play with me, you will feel it. La 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 la.
Yep, that's my wife. That's what she does. So yeah, I appreciate you guys joining tonight as we get into this stuff. Hopefully this is something you guys enjoy. It was honestly something I put off for a long time just because of the I can't describe it anything other than creepy as heck. That's I just put it off for that. Let's see. Ragnar Adventures, the black-eyed kids thing has always creeped me out, and I am right there with you. Rubberneck R. So my next question, has anyone ever had an experience with black-eyed children? That's a good question. That'd be great to see if anybody has ever experienced anything like that. Bear Truth, I hear you knocking, but you can't come in. Yeah. That's funny, Red Scout. Oh, TH2, do you want to play a game? That sounds like Chucky. Susie D's has a peep eye on her door. Are they going to be looking back at you when you look through that hole? Let's see. ER, has there ever been a report of being attacked by these black-eyed children? Well, how about we start getting into some of these stories, and we'll learn a little bit more about the first-hand encounters and reports of these really creepy cryptid creature kids. Yeah. And you know, it's just like any other cryptid stories. You take it with a grain of salt. These stories have come from the internet in most cases. So uh, take from it what you will. There are just a lot of reports, and I'm not trying to convince you to believe in them or not. We're just going to look at the reports that have been reported in the past and up until recent. Harvest Mary Moon, they have found black-eyed children from drones. There are videos on YouTube of black-eyed children sightings from drones. Yes, there are. Yep. Life with Bobby, there are reports of that, yes. Oh, Chuck C., that feeling you get when it's like something is watching you from the corner of your eye. And when you turn to look, it's nothing, or you see movement, then nothing. Yep, that feeling right there. That's what I'm talking about. Illusion, I always thought it was just a Hollywood thing. Yeah, I was the same. TJ Squatchy, for entertainment purposes only. That's the purpose of this video, of this stream. Entertainment purposes only. Exactly. And then you got shadow people, rubberneck. That's a whole nother topic that's even darker than I want to get into tonight. And Gary Lynch brings up another good point. You can't tell if they're black-eyed children nowadays, but they're always looking down on their phones. Exactly. So, let's see. How about we move towards the first reported sighting that I could find, and it seems to be pretty consistent. And there are dozens and dozens. There are many stories circulating. They're all over the internet, and it's not just some Halloween trick-or-treat story of these. That's not when they're all cited on Halloween, but many of these stories, they follow a very similar pattern, and that's kind of what makes it have a little bit of credibility, maybe. That a lot of the stories are very similar. There's these kids with completely blacked out eyes, just creepy as heck. And these kids, they arrive at someone's home or perhaps at their vehicle and knock on the door. And then I just creeped my wife out. So they knock on the door or knock on your window, and then they insist on being let inside. It's like that common thing that you see in a lot of the vampire movies. You have to invite them in. It seems to be the same thing with the black-eyed children. And any of the people who have reported having encounters with the black-eyed children, they describe this immediate, intense feeling of overwhelming, just a sense of dread, just kind of dread, fear. And besides the blacked out eyes that these kids that's their trademark. These kids, usually between 6 and 16 ish, they typically appear normal. Other than their eyes, they just they blend in with every other kid. Sometimes in some of the stories, their clothing is outdated, like it's from like a couple centuries ago. The long clothes with you can just tell it's really old. And then you have some reports on the black-eyed kids where they have odd things, but that's like talon feet, like talons, like a bird or a raptor. But that's the oddity. Many of the stories are kind of very similar, and they follow this pattern. Overall, though, they look just pretty much like normal kids. And that's kind of what makes them so creepy. They just look like normal kids. And then when you get this closer look, you see their eyes. And those dark eyes. that's where literally the darkness comes in. That's where the creepiness begins, and that's where it's at, is in the black eyes. It's just something about it. And this may or may not be the earliest sighting of all time. I mean, there's legends of creepy and evil children going centuries back, but as far as the earliest reported sighting, like of modern times, was as recent as 1996. And the first sighting came from a man named Brian Bethel, Bethel. And you guys can look this up. It's well documented. He was a journalist, and this was in Abilene, Texas. For any of you guys living in Texas, that's where the black-eyed children stories kind of hit mainstream. That's where they began. So in Brian Bethel's report, he describes this late evening where he was out in his vehicle, and he kind of pulled over. He stopped in this parking lot. It was right near a movie theater, and he was trying to do some paperwork. I think it says he was writing a check. So he's sitting there in his car trying to do this paperwork, and he was focused. He was just looking down and writing, and he wasn't really paying attention to what was going on around him. So, and he was just absorbed in that. He didn't even notice the two young boys approach up to the side of his car. He actually didn't even see them standing there until the older boy tapped on his driver's side window, which got his attention. Bethel, he rolled down his window, and he noted immediately this gut-wrenching fear that came over him, but he couldn't quite understand why as of yet. He had just noticed these kids, rolled down his window, and immediately he had this intense feeling of fear. So there was an older boy and a younger boy, and the older boy said that he and his brother wanted to catch a ride to a movie, but they had forgotten their money at home, and they were asking Bethel if he could give them a ride to the movie theater, which was not that far away. The two boys, they assured him that it wouldn't take very long, and then they started giving him like extra assurances that it was going to be okay. It's going to be okay. They were just two kids. And then they gave him another piece of information that kind of raised a warning flag. They told him that they didn't have a gun. It's like they were going out of their way to get Bethel to trust them. So Bethel kind of took it the other way, and he found that all of these reassurances coming from these kids, he actually found that those were unnerving. It wasn't right. And he also noted that the last showing of the film that these kids wanted to go watch, had already started. By the time they got there, it would be just about done. It would be about over. So in his report, he stated that when he broke eye contact with them, that's when his fear went to another level. He broke eye contact with these two young boys, and then when he looked back, he saw their eyes. He saw that their eyes had become completely blacked out. Bethel just gets terrified at this point. The older boy began to get frustrated with Bethel and when Bethel started making excuses for not giving them a ride, the older boy, he was getting, agitated and frustrated because he wanted this ride. But Bethel kept insisting he couldn't give them a ride and said, "You can't get into my car. The boy says, we can't get in unless you tell us it's okay." Bethel said, "You're not getting in." And then after that, Bethel tore out of that parking lot. And to this day, that is Bethel's story. And you can find that story. It's all over YouTube. I encourage you guys to look it up. You can read the story and have it told much better than I can tell it. It's It's just a creepy story. Just sitting there in your car. Picture yourself being in Bethel's shoes. You're sitting there in your car, and we've all done it. Even if you just have your phone and you're looking down in a parking lot, you're looking down, and you're not looking around for the most part. And you're sitting there, and you hear that knock on the glass. And first, that just gets you going, get your heartbeat going. And you look over there, 2 kids, and then you eventually see their blacked out eyes. It's that's part of that. It's part of that terror, and that just something about this story that takes it to that next level. Whether it's just because they're kids, or it's the black eyes, or a combination, whatever it is, this cryptid, it just got an extra creepiness to it. Like I said, it really makes me think back to that movie, The Village of the Damned. That extra something about creepy kids just does it. Jennifer Sanderson. By the way, Jennifer sent a picture of a Bigfoot statue that she had seen in her travels. She took a picture of it and she emailed it to me, and I appreciate that very much, Jennifer. Thank you very much for that. And if you guys are out, on your travels, and you see any statues or pictures or anything like that of any cryptid-oriented things, Mothman, Bigfoot, what have you, just take a picture of it, and if you could send me an email with it, I would appreciate it. I'm going to start a collection, and I've got Jennifer's put back, and we're going to do a stream at some point to kind of display all those. I think it would be fun. Lisa says, every time Bigfoot knocks, the dogs bark. I'm surprised our dog isn't yet. Jennifer says, I have had people knock on my window before, not children, though. Yeah. Let's see. AJ, it's a trick to get rid of all doors so they can't knock on the door. Might be a good idea. Oh boy. Yeah, definitely. You're sitting there in the parking lot. You may want to lock your doors, if you don't do that already. All right, so that was the one report that kickstarted everything. That was in Abilene, Texas. This journalist had this creepy encounter, and that's what he reported, and his story hasn't changed. So take from that what you will, but that is the earliest legitimate reporting I could find of the black-eyed children. And we're going to start looking at some other incidents. And with these reports being all over the internet, like I said, there's so many. Of course, some of these are going to be mistaken identities or straight up hoaxes. But in some of these stories, there's been a deeper investigation, and a lot of the I would say some of the more sketchy sightings, they go back before Bethel's by decades. Bethel's is the first, what I would call modern legitimate reporting of this. And whether these black-eyed kids are ghosts or demonic or aliens or simply the product of people and their overactive imaginations. The stories that you hear about the black-eyed kids, they're still interesting, and they're still equally creepy. There's just something chilling about them. And we're going to look at a few of these stories which occurred after Bethel's. And I would give you one point of advice as we're reading through these. If you hear a knock at your door while we're going through these, you might want to think twice before opening it. So just throwing that out there. All right, just going to check and see if anybody else popped in here. Let's see. Gingerbug, good to see you. Sandra Moody, how's it going? Appreciate you guys stopping by tonight. Carrie Land Shark. Shadow Dancer, good to see you. Good to see you. So the first encounter we're going to look at, I don't know if there's anybody here from England, but this is the tale of the black-eyed girl of Cannock Chase, and that's in Staffordshire, England. And this is the one which actually, you can find it on YouTube. There's actually drone footage of this supposed black-eyed girl of Cannock Chase in England. You can look that up. And this dates back to September of 2014, not that long ago. But there was the Daily Star, which is a tabloid newspaper, and it ran several full front page stories. You know, this was big news of a black-eyed girl, and she was supposedly terrorizing the area of Cannock Chase. And this was Staffordshire, England. There was a paranormal investigator. His name was Lee Brickley, and he took it upon himself to examine this case. He claimed that there was a local woman, and she suddenly heard this terrifying scream, which she believed to be a child in danger. We know that sound. If you hear a child screaming, you respond. So she ran in search of this child. And at first, she didn't see anyone. But then she noticed that there was a girl dressed in white standing behind her. You know, the scream came from that way. This girl appeared behind her. So already it's something off. This lady, she stated that the young girl had her hands over her eyes as if she was waiting for a birthday cake, and she was just standing there silent. So the woman, who also had her young daughter with her, she asked this strange girl if she was okay, which seemed to encourage the girl to take her hands from her face and to open her eyes. And we all know where this is going. That's when she saw that her eyes were completely black. There was no iris. There was no white. There was nothing. Black. And that's the report that this witness told Lee Brickley. This is an investigator. So the woman goes on to say that she jumped back and she grabbed her own daughter. And then when she looked again, that child was gone. She said it was so strange. Lee Brickley, this investigator, he told a report that his own aunt had witnessed this same girl, this girl in the white dress, over 30 years earlier in 1982. In his report, he says that she had heard a young girl calling for help before seeing a girl dressed in white running away from her. Very, very similar, very similar. Brickley's aunt caught up with this girl in white and placed a hand on her shoulder to see if she was okay. And when the girl responded by turning around, his aunt could see that her eyes were completely black. The girl then turned and continued to run before disappearing, just off into nowhere. And then it was a few years later, after the first encounter in Cannock, it was, I think it was 2015, there was that video taken of the drone. It was flying over the fields of Cannock Chase. And some believe that the drone, unintentionally, they weren't targeting this, but they caught this strange girl dressed in white, matching descriptions of the alleged black-eyed girl of Cannock Chase. So that is our first report. I was going to see if any of you guys had seen the... Rose has seen black-eyed children?
She has a rose before and after her name.
Let's see, Rose. Me and my sister seen a little girl alone at a cemetery, and we always visited, though she was lost. Thought she was lost. She poofed up closer to us, and we seen black spots instead of normal. That's creepy. That's creepy. And that's good advice, Harvest Mary Moon. Pack your Bible with you. Was probably terrifying, Rose. Let's see. Thank you for sharing it. I appreciate that. Chuck C. Black-eyed kids, the struggle is real. I don't doubt many things. Let's see. All right, TJ Squatchy dropped the link to that drone video that I was talking about, going over that field in Canuck Chase that picked up this girl in the white dress. You know, they weren't trying to, but it's on there. So that's the link to that if you guys want to check that out. Let's see. The church we went to had an outhouse, and my sister had allergic reactions randomly, so she needed the outhouse. We walked to the church. All right. Hey, there's TJ. Oops, almost blocked you, TJ. This is TJ Prep. Sorry. Rose says before she went to the bathroom, we both seen her. She was going to see if she needed help. That's something else. And these are the reports, guys. These are the reports that have come in from all over. And yes, you see a lot of these reports on the internet. And yes, you have to take everything that comes from the internet with that grain of salt. But here is Rose giving her report. So this is where this gets a little bit of legs to it. So it's you know, it's worth having the discussion. It's worth talking about. And Gary Lynch is having all kinds of emotions going on there. Let's see. Rose says, when my sister came out, we noticed she would disappear from one grave to another. That's pretty creepy. Let's see. We'll just keep going. I asked my sister what we should do, still thinking she was a regular girl. Let's see. She poofed up next to the fence, and my sister ran fast. I can imagine. I can imagine. Thanks for sharing that, Cashew. Cashew dropped the link there for our good friend Nose Pickin'. Nose Pickin' has done a lot for my wife and for me and for so many of our channels.
Our entire community.
For so many in our community. That's right. That's what my wife said. And he's helped out so many people. He mods, he donates his time, and he's going through a really tough time. So this is a link if anybody has the means. I'm not telling you to put yourself into a bind, but if
He has told his story publicly, and basically he's not going to have a place to live.
right.
Because people didn't pay their rent, and he was the landlord.
Yes. So anybody that can help our friend Nose Pickin', there's the link. You know, whatever's on your heart, and we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Rose says, I wanted to figure out who and what she was. It kind of sounds like it Shadow Files, evil spirit, probably. I don't know. It's just creepy. I don't get scared like my sister. I think that would have scared me a little bit. Susie D, I heard a kid, female, screaming her lungs out for longer than I expected, was across the creek in the woods, wanted to go look, but instinct said no. Probably a good idea. Let's see. All right. And Rose says she acted like she was visiting the graves. I found it so odd. Again, that's stories like what Rose just shared. That's why, you know, at first, the black-eyed kids, you just kind of, that's just internet phooey. But then you hear someone's story, and that's how a lot of the cryptid stories gain footholds. So, yeah, let's move on to our next story as far as the black-eyed kids. And this one's also overseas. It's in France, and this is back from in 1974. And this is a report from David Weatherly. I'm not real familiar with who this is, but it's a strange encounter. It's involving the black-eyed children. This occurred in the small village of, and I will butcher this pronunciation, it's Aisne, France. I won't even try to pronounce that. Aisne, France, in 1974. The case was originally investigated by other investigators. It involved two men named only Elaine G. and Patrick V. That's who they were investigating. And while they were just cruising around this small village, these two men stopped their car in front of a house, and they were just trying to do a turn in the road, just trying to do a U-turn. And as they glanced into the property's courtyard, this would have got my attention. They saw not one, but they saw 5 mysterious figures. And all of these figures, they just appeared to be looking back at them. They were all about 4 feet tall, and they were all dressed in the same long garments, kind of like those, a few centuries old garments. Their hair was long. All of their hair was down to their waist. And again, the strangest thing by far of this whole story was their solid black eyes. The figure that was closest to the men's car gestured them to come on into the courtyard. And they were unnerved and frightened, and the men sped away from the scene. They're, no, we're not pulling in there. They later returned with more people, but then there was no strange of the figures they'd seen earlier that day. When the investigators went out to check out this creepy report, one of the neighbors stated that he'd also seen the strange figures. So it had some backup. He believed they were children, and he'd seen them playing in the road. I'm not sure if he saw the black eyes or not, but either way, creepy story. Let's see. All right, so we're going to keep going here. We got a few of these to share. The next one is about, it's a story of a U.S. Marine who got that knock on his door. And this Marine was based at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. It's an anonymous report. There's no name given. But this report says that this U.S. Marine stated in November of 2009, he had a very strange encounter with black-eyed children near the barracks where he lived. This was in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. So this anonymous witness, he stated that he was alone in his room one evening, he was just watching a movie, when a knock came at his door. He was expecting it to be his roommate, who probably forgotten his key again. So the Marine opened it without any hesitation. When he did, he was presented with the sight of 2 small children standing outside. It wasn't his roommate. And as soon as he saw them, the man stated that, again, he was filled with this dread. And his first instinct was to slam the door shut as fast as he could. That was before he realized something else. Obviously, those black eyes. Both children had jet black eyes. Despite this terror, the Marine asked these kids, "What do you want?" And the kids responded. All the while they were just staring back at him with these cold black eyes. They told him it was cold outside, and they wanted to come inside and read. Okay, the Marine suddenly realized that there was no one else within sight, as far as he could see. And as the children took a step towards the room, he kind of gave in to that instinct that was racing through his blood, and he shut that door quick. As soon as the door shut, the knocking kept going for several minutes. In addition, there was rattling coming from his window. And finally, the noises stopped, and the children appeared to be gone. The following morning, that Marine kind of started asking around But the few people who'd been on site during this weird encounter stated they hadn't seen or heard anything strange. So that is another creepy story of the black-eyed kids. Just going to take a look at chat here for a second. Rose says the black eyes were like huge black holes, not just black eyeballs. Interesting. Oh, cool, Ruben D. His buddy was stationed there, Camp Lejeune. Neat. All right. So let's keep going here. Let's go to our next story. And this is the strange tale of Carrie Kisner from North Carolina. What is it with North Carolina? So it says Carrie was on her way home one afternoon from Wake Tech Community College, and this was in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Carrie was about 20 years old, just coming home. And so she took a detour and stopped at the Triangle Town Center Mall. So she's on her way home. She stopped at the mall. And after visiting the mall, she made her way back to her car in the parking lot. And that's where the story begins. As she got back to her car, she noticed a strange, almost sick-looking boy. And this boy was talking to this older lady. The boy looked pale, just looked sickly, pale with dark rings around his eyes, and he almost appeared to have a rigid and unnatural posture. Just something not right about this boy. And the old lady that this boy was talking to, she was just kind of digging through her purse like she was looking for something to give to the young boy. Carrie estimated the boy to be somewhere around 12. The more she witnessed, she started to become more aware that, again, just like the Marine, there was nobody around. Carrie, when she was witnessing this boy talking to this older lady who was digging through her purse, Carrie looks around and there's very few people around. And remember, this was a mall, so the place seemed to almost take on this sinister feel without anything else. So she picked up her pace and she's trying to get to her vehicle. But as she walked past this boy and this older lady, the young boy turns and he locks eyes with her. Carrie couldn't help but to stare back at this boy. And of course, the thing that she noticed, the boy's eyes were completely black, like these gaping holes in his head. At this point, it's that fear coming in, and Carrie moved as quickly as she could. She's cruising across this parking lot. And then while the boy suddenly turned and walked away from the scene, he didn't even wait to see what the older lady had in her purse to give to him. Carrie also reported later that she had the strange impression that while she was staring at this child and these dark eyes were looking back at her, that he could read her mind and knew what she was thinking about him. Interesting. Again, there's another one of those parking lot scenes where something's just off. Something's just off. Okay, let's keep going. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the series Ghost Hunters, but way back on one of their earlier seasons, I think it was season 2, there was a black-eyed ghost that they caught on there too. That's not one of our stories we're going to talk about, but something to look at. Okay, our next story that we're going to talk about is, now we talked about all these black-eyed kids coming up to the doors and coming up to the windows and knocking. This woman actually let the black-eyed children into her home, and we're going to look at this. And this was in January of 2016. Again, this was an unnamed woman, so that automatically raises a red flag about credibility, but this is just the report that's out there. She not only encountered the black-eyed children, she made a big mistake, and she allowed them into her home. And according to the report, it was a decision she would regret and it would have lasting implications. So this time we jump from North Carolina and we're up in Vermont, the state of Vermont. So there was this woman in Vermont, and she told this story of how it was in the middle of a really heavy snowstorm, practically a blizzard. And there was this loud knocking sound at the front door of the house, that it was just her and her husband who lived in this house. And they heard this knocking at the door. And she began thinking that someone maybe had been in an automobile accident because of the weather. But either way, the woman went to answer the door. She took a quick look out the window, and she saw the footprints in the snow leading up to the house. So she knew there was somebody out there. But there was no sign of any vehicle up on the road. Got her a little bit unnerved, so she went and she woke up her husband. As the knocking continued, getting a little bit louder. She didn't go and answer it. He did after he got up. And there were these two children standing there on their doorstep. This time it was a boy and a girl, and they were both looking like they were around 8 years old. The woman, in her memory of this incident, she recalls they were not dressed for the cold conditions. This was a blizzard, and they just weren't dressed for it. So she knew right away there was something off, and she was unnerved just by their presence. And despite what her instincts told her and her judgment, she invited the two children inside. She broke the rule. We already know this. Don't let them inside. So as she ushered these two children into her living room, she noticed something kind of odd. And it wasn't about the kids at first. It wasn't about her husband. It wasn't about a feeling. She noticed something weird about her cats. Her cats appeared to be terrified of these children. One of the cats in particular was hissing at them as they walked past. She offered to make the pair of kids, this cup of warm cocoa to warm them up. And she remembers back, whatever she asked them, their reply never changed. Every question that she asked these two kids, these two around 8-year-olds, a boy and a girl, they always answered the same answer, regardless of the question. And their reply was, "Our parents will be here soon." Now, I read that and that creeps me out right off the bat. These creepy kids, and every question you ask them, they have the same answer. Our parents will be here soon. Kind of creepy. So she came in and she came back into the room with the 2 cups of hot cocoa, and they looked up to take the drinks. And she noticed something about these kids. Noticed something horrifying about these kids. Right where their eyes should be, there were 2 jet black balls like giant pupils, coal black. And as she stared at these kids, they both, it was like in sync. They both suddenly asked if they could use the bathroom. She tried to remain calm, and she pointed over and directed them to her bathroom. And then some weird things started happening with her husband. As they went to the bathroom, this lady's husband's nose began to bleed. Didn't stop there. His nose begins to bleed, and then their power goes out. That's not creepy at all. And as the woman attempted to make her way to get her husband a rag or a tissue for his nose, she noticed that both of the children were standing at the end of the hall, and they were just motionless, and they're just staring at her. This is a creepy story. So they're standing there, they're staring down the hallway at this lady, and then they break this eerie, creepy silence, and they said, "Our parents are here." That takes it to even another level of creepy. Our parents are here. So who could be the parents of these creepy kids with these black eyes? So the kids walk up, they open the front door, and they walk right on out, right out into the snowy night. And strangeness didn't stop there. As they're walking up the walk towards the road into the darkness, the woman peeks out the window as she's closing the door, and she saw these children get into a big black car as two really tall men, both dressed in suits, stood next to it. They too got in, and the car drove away. And this is one of those examples of black-eyed kids often in the reports have an association with the Men in Black. I'm not sure how much you guys know about the Men in Black. We've done streams about the Men in Black, but not on this channel yet. Maybe we can do another Men in Black stream. The Men in Black show up in a lot of weird, a lot of weird places. A lot of times they're related with aliens. There are a lot of Men in Black reports during the times of the Mothman sightings. It's just like, well, we won't go too deep into the Men in Black, but these black-eyed kids, they say our parents are here. They go up, and there's these two tall black men, or two tall men in black, and they get into this car and drive away. Now remember, her husband had a really bad nosebleed, so it didn't stop there. With even though the kids were gone and they had left with their parents, the Men in Black, in the months that followed up, the woman's husband was diagnosed with a really aggressive form of skin cancer, which she certainly linked to that, and she didn't really go into specifics about it, but she said that she also began to suddenly suffer from regular nosebleeds, and described her physical being as in like the worst condition that she'd ever been in her life. And she's 100% convinced that both her and her husband's health issues are connected to that snowy night when they allowed the two black-eyed children into their home. That's that one's pretty creepy to me. I have to agree with you, Sandra Moody. Weird and creepy. And Grace says, trust my cats. That's right. Possible radiation? Who knows? Who knows? Shadow dancer, sometimes your eyes and ears bleed. Yeah, and like I said earlier, I'm not trying to convince anybody to believe in black-eyed children or any of that. This is for, as TJ Squatchy put it earlier, for entertainment purposes only. And we're just reporting stories that anybody can find. You just go on the internet, YouTube, and you can find these stories. Yeah, and to remind everybody, number one, if you hear, be careful about opening that door and rebuke it. Okay, let's keep going. We got a few more. This story goes back to the state of Virginia, all the way back to 1950, and it's one of the earliest known accounts of black-eyed children. Like I said, we discussed the earliest well-documented earlier. It was the first story we talked about, but this predates that. It's just the origins are a bit more unknown or a bit more sketchy. But this story is about a 16-year-old boy, and we only have his first name, which is Harold. Okay, and according to the story, which was pretty deeply and thoroughly investigated, this teenager was walking home one afternoon when he came up to this other boy, and this other boy was leaning up against the fence, like he was standing there waiting on someone. So Harold tried to speak to him, but this boy who was leaning against the fence just didn't respond. He didn't get any response back from him. So he was about to walk off and go on his journey, go on his way. And then the strange boy suddenly, spoke out to Harold. And what he told Harold was, I want to go to your house. You are going to walk me up to your house. So this strange boy wants to come home with Harold. And once this boy began talking with Harold, that's when Harold noticed, again, the black eyes, these black as coal eyes. No white, just solid black. And then even more strange things began to happen, and then more chilling things began to happen. Harold kind of got a little bit afraid, and he began to think in his mind that I'm going to get home as fast as I could. I'm going to run. I'm getting out of here. And that's when that boy, the strange boy with the black eyes, he spoke out again to Harold and said, now, don't you run away from me. You're going to walk me up to your house. It's almost like he knew what Harold was thinking. Harold turned and he ran away fast. I picture like Forrest Gump breaking out his leg braces. He ran faster than his legs had ever carried him before. He's gone. And he told this story to his parents, that as he was running, he heard this scream behind him. He said it sounded almost like a bobcat. And for some reason, his parents believed their son's account. He must have been either a really good storyteller, or his state of emotion maybe clued them on that maybe something happened. So Harold's father, as the story goes, took his gun and he went out looking for this creepy black-eyed kid who had been demanding his son take him to their family home. Harold's mother was so concerned over this encounter that she took Harold to the local priest to have the priest perform a blessing on him, because she thought he had an encounter with the devil himself. Pretty creepy. Let's see. Just taking a look at chat here. Carrie Lynch, maybe most people are confusing these kids with goth kids. That's a possibility. Sandra says, I don't ever open my door without seeing who's there. If I don't know them, I don't answer the door. I also check cameras to see the vehicles and all around house. That is good advice. And Fuzz T Fork loves the Mothman. So do I. Great story. Let's see. Dharma Agent, very creepy. Makes me want to stock up on holy water and salt. Yeah. Let's see. All right, we got just a couple more, and let's keep going here. This story goes a little bit further south. This is the story of some black-eyed children who approached a gas station in the state of Louisiana. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Darkness Radio. It's a broadcast. I personally have never heard it, but I've heard of it. And this tale came out in September of 2015. It took place at a gas station in northeast Louisiana. The gas station was kind of off by itself, just off the highway, and it was the only service station for miles. There was not much around this gas station. It was kind of isolated. And the story gets creepy right off the bat, because it starts off saying that it was around 3 a.m. That's that hour that we know about, 3 a.m. And the attendant of the gas station, he was just going about his normal duties, and the power suddenly dropped out and plunged everything into darkness. So the attendant's using his phone. It's typically what we all do nowadays, turn the flashlight on our phone, so we got some light. And he made his way to the generator, and he turned the generator on. The backup lighting fired up, but only the parking lot and the hall to the register was lit up. It's not huge emergency lighting. It's just enough to get by. The rest of the gas station was still in darkness. So that area had just experienced some pretty heavy winds that evening. So the attendant wasn't terribly uneasy. He was figuring that it was part of the storm, and the wind was probably to blame for the power outage. It kind of comes with that territory. But that's when he saw something moving at the edge of the darkness, and that's the edge of that darkness. It's just as far as your eyes can see. You kind of lose the details. You can't make anything clear, but there's something there. And he's staring off into this darkness. He's intently looking out there, and for several minutes. And eventually he started making out some shapes. And what he started seeing was 3 children who were riding bikes out there in the darkness. And it's almost like as soon as he recognized what they were, 2 of them leaped from their bikes and they made their way over to the gas station. They're approaching him. They stopped at the doorway to go into the gas station. They just stood there staring at the attendant. Now he's a little unsettled, which I can't say that I blame him, but he's not like terrified at this point. He made his way over to the gas station door and he opened it, asking the 2 children if, are you okay? And stating, that it was, it was pretty late for kids their age to be out running around on bikes in the middle of nowhere. One of the 2, this was a young girl, she asked the gas station attendant if she could use his phone. And he took his cell phone and he handed it to her, and her eyes met his. And the attendant saw her eyes were solid black orbs, completely black. As he's handing her this cell phone, the girl's like, "No, I need the real one," motioning to the landline in the gas station. She didn't want his cell phone. She wanted to use the phone in the gas station. Again, trying to get their way in. So at this point, fear finally starts to overtake this attendant, and he pushes the door shut and he locks it in one move like he's trained on it before. And he yelled as he did it so that the girl should go home, get out of here. The children, they just stood there and stared at the attendant through the window for a bit, and then turned around and got on their bikes and rode off into the darkness. That following morning, can you imagine the attendant as he's trying to tell his boss of this ordeal and then request that his boss go over the footage of the security cameras? As they did so, they realized that the security cameras had been down because of the power outage. So it's I don't know whether it's theorized that the power going out was connected to the black-eyed children's arrival, or if it was just a bizarre coincidence. But either way, out in the middle of nowhere at this gas station, that's pretty creepy. Yeah, definitely creepy. I always kind of get the if you're driving down isolated highway and there's that one gas station there to pull off, I always get kind of creeped out at those places anyway. So that's another one of those reports of the black-eyed kids, and we're almost finished here. The next one actually occurs in the state I'm pretty familiar with, and that's Ohio. And this reports from an Ohio man who he's kind of has a nickname. His nickname was Noetic, like poetic, but with an N at the beginning. So he told of this strange encounter, and this was in July of 2010. And this encounter was with 2 black-eyed teenagers outside of this communication or a data processing center where he worked. So this Noetic, he was taking a break during his night shift, and he was, he's on break, he's out smoking, and he's outside the building, and this is around 5 a.m. And he looks across the street from his building, and he notices these 2 teenage boys. And immediately, he felt unnerved as soon as he noticed them. Mostly just because it appeared they were staring straight at him. They're just otherwise motionless. These 2 teenage boys staring across the street, looking right at him, not moving, just staring. that's kind of creepy. So Noetic, he quickly finishes his cigarette and his break, and he goes back inside the building and goes back to work. But about 10 minutes later, the intercom from the front door buzzed. And as Noetic turned to kind of look at the monitors, he could see that it was the two boys who had been staring him down earlier. Now they're up at the building pushing the intercom buttons. Noetic pressed the talk button and asked what they wanted, stating he was busy and he didn't have time for this. Neither of the boys spoke back, but one of them motioned up to the camera for him to come outside. So he pressed the talk button again and told them they would have to leave, and he went back to work. The two boys, they continued just to stare in this camera as though they were looking through a TV monitor into the room right where he worked. And after about 10 minutes or so, Noetic decided to go to the front door and ask these boys to leave and leave him alone so he can do his job. But before he opened the door, he sneaked a look at the two boys through the one-way glass. And, they looked normal enough, apart from the fact that they had completely black eyes. Other than that, normal. So he's completely on edge. For some reason, he decided to open the door anyway and tell the boys to leave, or he was going to call the police. As soon as he opened that door a little bit to yell out to them, one of the boys said, almost like he was reading his mind, before he even gets those words out of his mouth about calling the police, this boy says, "That won't be necessary, sir. We just need to use your phone. Can you let us in?" Again, trying to get in. But Noetic said that can't let you in. Nobody's allowed in here. So the boys asked again to be invited into the building, and then stood there staring at now Noetic, who's just distressed and full of anxiety, anxious. So he pulled out his mobile phone and he repeated his threat to call the police and pulled the door shut again. He went back up to where he was working, and he was looking at the monitor of the camera at the door. And one boy remained at the door and just kept staring into this camera, while the other boy made his way back to the back of the building and stared into the camera there. Not creepy at all. So Noetic called the police. All the while he was watching his camera monitors. The boys made their way around to a blind spot on the security camera system. But while Noetic waited for them to reappear on one of his monitors, they seemed to have simply vanished. And by the time the police did arrive, it was about an hour later, about 6 a.m., there was no sign of either of the two strange teenagers. All right, so I think that's probably our last story of the evening. I have something I want to play for you guys. And yeah, it's a creation that my wife made for this. I played kind of the intro for the stream. She also created an outro, and I want to show you guys that. She did a really good job for that. So let me play that, and then I want to ask you guys for a favor once I'm done playing this. So this is another creation of my super talented wife, Lake Fairy.
Don't leave after this.
So don't leave after this. I have a question to ask you guys. So this is another creation of Lake Fairy.
I want to play a game with you. Don't you run away.
I blame that on my wife. So, good job, Lake Fairy. That was a pretty creepy creation.
Yeah, I didn't sleep very good last night.
Yeah. Darm Agent's got it. It's the Men in Black. Exactly. And like we read in one of our stories, it was there's a connection between a lot of the stories of the black-eyed kids and the Men in Black. So I thought it was really cool how she tied that in with this. I think she did a really good job with that. Now, here's the question I wanted to ask you guys about this. First of all, did you enjoy the stream? Did you find it enjoyable? Was it okay? Did we do an okay job? That's what I'm asking. And then I have a favor to ask you guys. All right, so we got some, so seems some people enjoyed it. All right. Yes, we could have used 101's flashlight this whole stream. Should have had it right there. Second question I want to ask you guys is, I need some suggestions. I have done so many streams on cryptids, and I put this one off for a long time just because of the creepiness factor. So please, if you guys have any suggestions of stories like this that you would like to do a stream on, and we can just have some fun with it. We're not trying to prove something exists, just trying to have a good time with it. AJ mentions Ogopogo. Killer gnomes. Please, killer gnomes.
No.
But yeah. Oh boy. My email is
we have them all over the house.
Oh,
No
boy.
killer gnomes, please.
my email is bigfootprepper@gmail.com. So if you guys could shoot me an email with any creepy story or a cryptid story or anything that you think would be a fun, worthwhile stream. I'm pretty much open to anything. Crop circles, that might be interesting. Yeah. Jennifer says fairies. Let's see, the wee
Fairies
people.
is a Scottish, Irish folklore.
Yeah. I was thinking like maybe even like Antarctica. I know there's a lot of weird things, some stories that come out of there. But yeah, if anything that you guys think of, shoot me an email, bigfootprepper@gmail.com, and we'll see what we can come up with. Yeah. So I would appreciate
I
any.
got a story with visuals and sound effects. Boom. You know what?
Come here.
You lost your other stories about your aliens and Bigfoots.
Crop circles, I think, would be pretty cool. I just want Lake to come over and take a bit of a bow for her.
I'm not doing that.
Well, come over and at least show your face.
Okay, I'll show my face.
All
I'm
right.
not taking
It's
a
her
bow.
fault. If you guys have trouble sleeping, she did the videos.
Well, I didn't sleep good last night either while making it.
All right. So good job. High five. All right. So we appreciate you guys hanging with us for a bit tonight.
TJ Squatchy wants gnomes.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Oh yeah, and by the way, part of that video, that noise was me making that.
She actually made one of those noises.
Yeah.
Kushtaka. Let me write that one down. Okay, I wrote that one. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Lock your doors.
Tell them about the criticism. I welcome criticism.
Okay, yeah, and also
It makes me
Lake brings up, you come here, you tell him.
okay. I invite criticism because constructive criticism will help me get better. Yeah.
As far as me, I just get crippled by criticism. Just tell me I'm doing good, even if I don't. I just get broken.
Just give me nuggies.
All right. And if you guys haven't, and maybe somebody can share this link, because this was one of the sickest videos I've ever seen in my lifetime. My wife, Lake Fairy, and the Nut House, they collaborated on a music video.
You mean sick isn't good?
Sick as in amazing. Lake Fairy did the video effects, and
You can check.
the Nut House, he created the music and vocals. Flat out amazing. If somebody could drop that link in the chat, I highly recommend you guys. It's by Key
You
Theory.
didn't want to show it here. You can show it at the end on your outro.
It's all right. But yeah, you guys check this. Check out. I think you can find the video on the Nut House's channel and Lake Fairy's channel. Phenomenal job with that. Nut House, brother, you did an amazing job of that. The vocals were incredible. The music spot on. Great job. Great job. Yeah, TJ has a question. Obviously, the black-eyed children need to be invited in. So are they vampires? Kind of right along the same type, right? Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Okay, TJ Squatchy dropped that link. You guys should, and Shift Kicker also. I highly recommend highly recommend you guys check that out. Let's see. All right, and I think with that, we've been going about an hour and a half, and I appreciate all of you listening to me ramble for the last hour and a half, and appreciate the support.
And I shared the music video that's playing on the Nut House channel. So
Okay.
He's got to go
All right.
watch his.
Yep. Right.
He has a different thumbnail too.
Okay.
Amazing voice.
Yes, you did a great job with that. Both of you did. Both of you. So, and I will go back and I'll read the stream comments, and if anybody had any.
Yeah. You do an amazing job at storytelling. Just saying.
I just have fun and wing it. So.
Well, you wing it good, baby.
Yeah, it's like Step Brothers when they launched Prestige worldwide. They put in the work and the research.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
Here's $20 for pizza.
This house is full of Step Brothers references. It's like a daily thing.
Yeah. You can call me Nighthawk.
Yeah, you have to call me Dragon.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, you guys have a great night. Appreciate you guys all being here. Is 101 go live tonight?
He wasn't scheduled to, but I don't know.
Okay. TJ Squatchy. So much room for activities.
He's in chat.
Carrie Lynch. Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Look at all this room for activities. Tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Tomorrow night for 101. So, all right. We're going to wrap it up, and appreciate you guys being here, and try to get something put together for another
Put the
cryptid
intro,
stream.
Outro back to back in a video.
Okay. Lake Fairy's going to put that intro and outro kind of consecutive in a video, and she'll put it on the channel. So, yeah, just to up the creepiness doubled. So, yeah, again, anybody has any suggestions, shoot me an email.
God bless you in Jesus' name. We love you.
All right. And we'll catch you here pretty soon. Have a good night.